We often believe that family is the safest place, a haven of unconditional love. But sometimes, those very relationships that are meant to nurture and protect us become the source of our deepest pain. Amidst this paradox, a profound question begins to emerge. Could there be a divine purpose in the pain we face, even when it comes from those closest to us? God operates in ways that often go beyond our comprehension. He sees not only what is, but also what lies ahead, things we cannot yet perceive. When someone within your own family becomes a source of hurt, of harsh words and discouragement, it may feel as if the ground beneath you is crumbling. But dear soul, what if this hardship isn't meant to destroy you, but instead to safeguard you, to elevate you? What if God's unseen hand is actually shielding you from unseen harm? Consider the possibility that there is more to your pain than meets the eye. Perhaps God is redirecting you, lifting you out of something that is not meant for you. Think about Joseph from the scriptures, betrayed by his own brothers, sold into slavery, exiled to a foreign land. His story is filled with betrayal and sorrow. On the surface, it reads like a tragedy of injustice. But behind the visible, God was weaving a masterful plan. Every setback, every betrayal was not a rejection. It was a redirection. What looked like abandonment was actually divine repositioning. Joseph's destiny was not thwarted by the betrayal of his brothers. It was shaped by it. And so, what about your journey? The tension, the painful words, the lack of encouragement from someone you once deeply trusted. Could it be more than just personal injustice? Could these be instruments God is using to shift your path? Perhaps He is not only protecting you, but making space for the next chapter He has prepared for you. It is tempting to dwell on the hurt, but the deeper test lies in trusting God's hand when you can't see His plan. While you may only see fragments, He beholds the entire tapestry. Life isn't always gentle, but even seasons of difficulty are never wasted. At times, God removes individuals from your life, not to punish you, but to fulfill what He has promised you. A relationship that consistently makes you question your value or slows your growth is not aligned with God's intention for you. He created you with a unique purpose, a calling that only you can carry out. If someone is hindering that calling, why would God want you bound to them? Perhaps what feels like heartbreak is really a divine wake-up call. Maybe in your spirit you can already hear God whispering, "Trust me. I am taking away what you do not need, so I can place before you what I've prepared." We often ask, why does God allow this hurt? But a better question might be, what is He showing me through it? In many cases, God is not just protecting you, He's refining you, preparing you for something far more significant than anything you've known. The tears you've cried are not in vain. They are the threads being stitched into His divine design. Every detail, every emotion, every ache has purpose. Let us consider some clear signs that God may be shielding you from a family relationship that is holding you down. These are not just chance occurrences. They are carefully aligned moves from a loving and watchful Father. One of the signs is that when you create distance, you begin to feel lighter, more purposeful, more at peace. These three blessings, freedom, purpose, and peace, are precious gifts from God. When your soul begins to breathe easier the moment you step away, that is not just an emotional relief. It is a divine signal. The peace God gives is not shallow or temporary. It is profound and enduring, a kind that surpasses human comprehension. If you find that clarity returns, your rest deepens, and your heart feels calm when you are apart from a particular family member, don't dismiss it. That peace is a signpost pointing to the presence of God's protective hand. Just as a caring parent keeps their child from danger, God is drawing you away from the chaos someone may be causing in your life. Reflect on how God delivered the Israelites from Egypt. They lived in harsh conditions under Pharaoh, subjected daily to oppression and cruelty. That existence was never God's plan for them. When He led them out, fear gripped them at first. They were so accustomed to suffering that they almost preferred the familiar pain to the uncertainty of the unknown. They even wished to return to Egypt, unable to trust what lay ahead. But once they passed through the Red Sea and stepped into the wilderness, something miraculous began. They were no longer bound by oppression. They began to experience freedom and peace, something they had never known before. Much like the Israelites, you may have found yourself in a situation where you've grown used to surviving rather than thriving. You hesitate to step away because the pain has become familiar, even if it is not right. But know this: God does not call you to remain in bondage. He calls you into peace. Just as Exodus 14:14 declares, "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." So too is God fighting for your peace even now. There are connections in life that resist peace, no matter how much effort you put in. Proximity to dysfunction can cloud your perspective and distort your judgment. Creating space can help you see things more clearly, not necessarily to end the relationship forever, but to reassess how it's affecting you. Imagine being deep within a dense forest. When you're surrounded on all sides, the path forward is obscured. But take a few steps back, and suddenly you see slivers of light cutting through the trees. What was hidden is now coming into view. Distance brings clarity. It gives you the perspective you need to evaluate whether the relationship aligns with God's design for your life. Psalm 34:14 reminds us, "Turn from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it." Sometimes, pursuing peace requires you to release what disturbs it, even when that person is family. This is not selfishness, it is obedience to the life of wholeness and freedom God has promised you. God understands how difficult these choices are. He sees your silent anguish, the battles within your heart, the uncertainty in your decisions. But He also assures you, "I will never leave you nor forsake you." Deuteronomy 31:6. When He asks you to step away, He does not leave a void. He fills that space with His grace, comfort, and provision. You do not need to feel guilty for creating distance if it means preserving the peace He has given you. He is not calling you into confusion or conflict. He is calling you into alignment with His will. Trust that, even in what feels like loss, He is orchestrating something good for your future. Use moments of peace to turn to Him. Ask for wisdom. Ask Him to show you what this relationship is teaching you and whether to stay engaged or to release it. As you sit in the quiet and allow His peace to cover you, let it remind you that you are never alone. God's protection is not always loud. Sometimes it comes as a quiet nudge to step away. Another unmistakable way God protects you is by opening your eyes to the true nature of someone's behavior. This can be deeply disorienting, especially when it involves someone you've loved and trusted. But when God begins to reveal patterns, manipulation, envy, control, or emotional harm, He is not doing it to increase your pain. He is doing it to bring you into the truth. Perhaps for years you overlooked the signs. You told yourself they didn't mean to hurt you. You believed that their love was simply hard to understand. But then something shifts. Suddenly, the veil lifts. You begin to notice how they always dismiss your accomplishments, how they speak to you with condescension, how your spirit shrinks around them. This clarity is not your imagination. It is divine insight. It is God pulling you from denial into the light of reality. Luke 8:17 tells us, "There is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought into the open. God reveals what is hidden, not to break you, but to free you. He does not want you chained to something based on illusion. He wants you to see clearly and move wisely. The exposure of someone's true intentions may hurt, but it is also the first step toward healing. It's a turning point. You may feel unsure about what to do next. Clarity doesn't always call for cutting ties, but it does require boundaries. Healthy, God-honoring boundaries that protect your heart. You are not being called to hate or retaliate, but neither are you called to tolerate ongoing emotional injury. Wisdom sometimes means saying, enough. It may come with grief, it may come with confusion, but even when people fail you, God remains steadfast. He sees it all. Your effort, your silence, your tears, and He promises to guide you to a place where you are valued and safe. He is not removing people from your life to punish them. He is simply bringing you to where your spirit can grow, where your heart can rest, where your soul can thrive in the light of His truth. A place where real love thrives, free from manipulation and envy, does exist. Believe that when God uncovers the truth, He also provides the strength you need to confront it. Do not be afraid of seeing things clearly, because with that clarity comes true freedom. There may come a time when you enter a period of isolation, but instead of despair, you begin to discover a deeper purpose. When God desires to protect you from a toxic family dynamic, He doesn't always expose everything at once. Sometimes He gently but intentionally removes you from their sphere. Calls go unanswered, communication fades, and the doors that once seemed open slowly close. It's bewildering because, as human beings, we naturally long for connection. Yet connection, when not aligned with God's will, can turn into a form of captivity. If you hold on too tightly to someone who isn't part of your destiny, you may find yourself burdened by their expectations, imprisoned by their opinions, and entangled in cycles God never intended for you. Look again at Joseph's journey. He once lived surrounded by his brothers, those he trusted the most, but they were the very ones who turned against him, throwing him into a pit and stripping him of all he had. What Joseph couldn't see then was that this separation was not abandonment, it was the beginning of divine transformation. Had he remained among them, would he have been positioned to become a leader in Egypt and save countless lives? No. His time alone was not rejection, it was preparation. Psalm 46:10 reminds us, "Be still and know that I am God." Often, God calls us into stillness, away from the noise, so we can finally hear His voice clearly. If you had never felt the ache of loneliness, you might never have yearned so deeply for His presence. Think of being in the heart of a noisy crowd, a city filled with shouting, traffic, and distraction. Amid the noise, it's impossible to hear a single tune. But step away, enter silence, and suddenly that melody becomes unmistakable. That's what God does. He leads you into quiet, so you can finally hear the song He's been singing over your life all along. When someone whose presence weighs heavily on your spirit is removed, the emptiness can feel jarring. But slowly, as you draw near to God in that stillness, new understanding emerges. You begin to recognize that the peace you're now experiencing is not random. It's sacred. You remember dreams, visions, and longings that God planted in your heart long ago, the ones you buried under layers of doubt and discouragement brought on by toxic voices. And then one day, a change takes place. You wake up and realize the grief is no longer paralyzing. The emptiness left by their absence no longer hurts. Instead, you feel grounded, strengthened, and more determined than ever to walk in alignment with God's plan for you. Your period of solitude was never a punishment. It was preparation. And when this season passes, you will see clearly that God was not merely pulling you away from someone harmful. He was placing you precisely where you were always meant to be. If it feels like people are withdrawing from you, don't panic or doubt God's presence. Be still. Seek Him. Believe that He is guiding you towards something far more significant than you can yet comprehend. One day, you'll look back with gratitude, realizing that what felt like isolation was actually divine protection in disguise. There also comes a moment when the words of a toxic person, once capable of breaking you, suddenly lose their power. In the past, certain remarks may have pierced you like arrows, leaving scars on your confidence. But then something shifts. You hear the same critical tones, but they no longer shake you. Not because the words have stopped, but because God has built a shield around your heart and mind. God may not always silence those who speak ill of you, but He does ensure that their words no longer take root in your soul. Like waves crashing against solid rock, their efforts to wound you fall flat. Ephesians 6:16 says, "Take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one." And that's exactly what God enables you to do. Stand firm, unmoved by destructive language. Often, people who belittle or criticize do so in hopes of triggering a reaction. They thrive on watching you fall apart. But as God begins to restore and elevate you, your response changes. You no longer react in anger or hurt. You remain steady because your identity is rooted not in fleeting opinions, but in the eternal truth of your Creator. When God brings healing, He also breaks every yoke that once kept you in emotional bondage. You begin to live in freedom. Like an eagle gliding above the storm, you rise above the noise of those who once tried to bring you down. Their negativity, once heavy, now seems like distant echoes. In place of their lies, you start repeating God's promises. You no longer dwell on what they say about you. Instead, you anchor yourself in what God has spoken over you. Where once you repeated, "They said I'll never be enough," now you confidently affirm, "I have called you by name, you are mine." Isaiah 43:1 becomes your foundation. The influence of others begins to fade. What's more, your heart softens, not toward enabling them, but toward understanding. You begin to see that those who hurt you were likely hurting themselves. Their harshness came from their own wounds, and with God's help, you release the need to carry bitterness. Forgiveness begins to blossom, not because they earned it, but because God has taken away the power their words once held over you. Forgiveness doesn't mean returning to dysfunction or pretending nothing happened. It means taking your peace back and refusing to let anyone steal it again. If you've reached a point where their opinions no longer define you, take heart. This is not accidental. It is a powerful sign that God is protecting your heart, renewing your perspective, and pulling you deeper into His unshakable truth. Stand in that truth, because as Isaiah 54:17 declares, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper." Then something beautiful starts to unfold. New people start appearing in your life. Kind, supportive, uplifting individuals who speak life into you rather than drain it from you. When one chapter ends, especially a painful one, it can be hard to imagine a better one ahead. But God never leaves you empty. When He closes one door, He always opens another, even if at first all you see is darkness. Look closely and you'll see His hand in how new relationships begin to form. People who arrive unexpectedly yet feel like answers to long-forgotten prayers. They speak words that remind you of who you truly are, not who others told you to be. They encourage you when you feel weak and celebrate you without envy. These aren't chance meetings, they're divine appointments. Think of a tree in winter. The cold winds come, stripping away old, dead leaves. The branches look barren, almost lifeless. But beneath the surface, new life is forming. In time, buds appear, fresh, full of promise. Likewise, God allows certain relationships to fall away, not to leave you bare, but to make space for the ones He hand-picked for your growth. The new connections He places in your life are a clear reflection of His grace. They are not only supportive, they carry healing in their words and presence. These individuals might not know everything you've been through, but God uses them to restore you nonetheless. They offer you companionship, not comparison, encouragement, not criticism, love, not manipulation. Still, these relationships, like any living thing, need tending. Just as young trees need water to flourish, godly friendships require intentional care. Make time for them, be honest, give love in return, because these new people are more than just company. They're a part of the divine plan to lead you into a healthier, more vibrant life. Ecclesiastes 4:9 reminds us, "Two are better than one, because they have a good return for their labor. When one falls, the other can lift them up." God knows how draining it is to be surrounded by constant negativity. He doesn't just pull you out. He places you into a brighter space, filled with voices that echo His love. But be cautious not to hold on to old bitterness. God didn't lead you out of pain just for you to remain emotionally imprisoned. He calls you to release resentment, not so others escape accountability, but so your heart can remain light and ready to embrace joy again. You don't need to seek justice or retribution. He will take care of that. Letting go doesn't make you weak. It shows that your trust in God is greater than your need for closure. As you nurture these new relationships, your heart will begin to bloom again. You'll discover a new sense of belonging and step into the peace that once felt so distant. This new community is not just a blessing, it's a reflection of God's love and protection over you. Then, when those who held you back finally leave your life, something else happens. Unexpected opportunities begin to emerge. Perhaps you've tried for years to move forward in some area, career, ministry, dreams, but every effort seemed to fall short. You prayed, worked hard, waited patiently, yet the breakthrough never came. It was as if an unseen barrier blocked your way. But once that unhealthy tie is broken, doors that were once tightly shut begin to open. Paths that were hidden suddenly become visible. The timing feels miraculous, yet it's precisely what God had planned all along. He was waiting to remove what was hindering you before releasing what He had in store. And when you begin to walk through those doors, you'll see that they were. Then one day, after releasing a toxic relationship, doors that had long remained closed begin to open, not because you suddenly became more talented or exerted more effort, but because a barrier had been lifted. Sometimes God holds back certain blessings until specific individuals are no longer part of your life. You may not have been fully aware of it, but that person might have been hindering your progress, whether it was through subtle manipulation, constant doubt, quiet criticism, or negative energy. They restrained you from reaching the fullness of your calling. Some family members don't overtly tear you down, but they gently sow seeds of limitation that slow your momentum and cause you to question your worth. Take, for instance, the story of Abraham and Lot found in Genesis 13. As Abraham journeyed with Lot, both their herds and possessions grew so vast that the land could no longer support them together. Strife arose between their herdsmen, and although Abraham cared for Lot, he recognized that they could no longer walk the same path. He allowed Lot to choose where to go, and Lot selected the lush plains near Sodom. Abraham remained where God had placed him, and immediately after Lot's departure, something remarkable occurred. God spoke directly to Abraham and reaffirmed his covenant. Genesis 13, 14, 17 shows us that God withheld this affirmation until Lot was gone. He waited until Abraham was free from that entanglement to reveal the next steps of his divine plan. This moment reveals something profound. There are certain blessings, breakthroughs, and directions in life that will only come once the people who are not meant to walk with you have left. God sometimes delays answers and opportunities, not to punish you, but to protect you. If you've spent years feeling stagnant, praying for promotion, advancement, or clarity, and still felt as though you were hitting invisible walls, consider this. Was someone in your life quietly suppressing your potential? Perhaps they continually discouraged your dreams, spoke with condescension, or subtly convinced you to settle for less. Then, the moment they were no longer present, everything began to change. The air seemed clearer, peace returned, invitations arrived. New doors, which once seemed sealed shut, now opened without resistance. That was not coincidence, that was divine intervention. God knew that if you entered into your season of elevation with that person still close by, they could divert your focus, sap your energy, or derail the very calling He placed on your life. So in His mercy, He removed the obstacle, not to break you, but to bless you. Isaiah 43:19 reminds us, "See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland." God doesn't just remove people from your life. He clears the path for something new, something better. What may have looked like abandonment or loss was actually Him preparing to bless you in ways you couldn't yet imagine. If you look back and recognize that after a certain person exited your life, you began to feel more focused, new ideas started flowing, peace settled in your heart, and doors began to swing open, take that as a confirmation. It wasn't random. It was God protecting your destiny. He had been waiting patiently to release what He had prepared for you, but first, He needed to remove what was never meant to stay. So instead of mourning over what ended, begin to trust the One who sees what you cannot. Let Him close the chapters that no longer serve your growth. Let Him lead you forward, even if it's into the unknown. He knows not only what you need, but also who you need, and who you don't. Walk in faith, trusting that every step forward is a step closer to the purpose He created uniquely for you. Your journey may be filled with pain, especially when the person who exits was someone close to your heart. It may leave you feeling uncertain, even abandoned, but let this truth anchor you. Every separation permitted by God is not a form of punishment, it's preparation. Every door that closes is not the end, it's the start of something sacred. Even when things don't unfold the way you thought they would, God is still working, still guiding, still crafting something beautiful for your life. Just as He protected Joseph from the betrayal of his brothers, guided the Israelites out of bondage, and paved a path for Abraham to walk into his promise, He is doing the same for you. The reality is, not everyone is meant to walk with you into the next season. Some individuals, even those you deeply love, are simply not equipped to handle the weight of your calling or the height of your destiny. And when God removes them, it's not because you've failed. It's because He's setting you up for something greater. So if you're feeling lost, if the ache of separation is fresh in your soul, and if the silence left behind feels overwhelming, remember this: you are not forsaken. You are exactly where God has appointed you to be. He is not merely extracting unhealthy ties. He is positioning you in alignment with His perfect will. He is opening up avenues of peace, channels of growth, and a future infused with divine purpose. Even in the absence of the familiar, even when tears fall and understanding feels far away, trust that God is still at work. He sees the full story, even the chapters you cannot read yet. Trust that His plan is never to harm you, but to lead you into hope, healing, and holiness. Let go of what is no longer part of your path, so you can take hold of what's next. The very fact that peace has returned and progress has begun is evidence that His hand is on your life. And if this message echoes something deep within your soul, if it speaks to a silent battle you've carried, know that you're not alone. God is near to the brokenhearted. He comforts those who mourn and heals wounds no one else sees. You are deeply loved, carefully guided, and divinely protected. Hold on to faith. The best is not behind you, the best is still ahead. Amen.